Hi, do you know the difference between a $2 million law firm and a $400,000 law firm? If not, tune in and find out.
You are listening to the Prosper at Law podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper at Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. What's the difference between a law firm that does, say, $2 million a year, or it could be $3 million or something like that, and $300,000 or $400,000? I'm going to say it's basically three things, okay? And it comes down to the number of problems you solve, the number of people that work for you, and the quality and number of systems you have. So the number of problems you solve, the number of people that work for you, and the number of systems that you have. Recently, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and her name is Branna, and she owns a family court law firm. In my town, I have a criminal defense law firm, and we were talking about, problems and solving problems, and we were also talking about, in terms of growing a business, there's this idea for people who haven't really grown a business or created a business. And it seems uniform throughout everybody, even people making $100 million a year versus people making, $1 million a year or $2 million a year. And I'm talking about gross revenues, not net margin or net profit, is that we're brought up with this idea from, fairy tales, the movies we watch, the TV shows we watch, the teachers we listen to, or Sunday school teachers, and the idea is that if you get wealthy enough, that it's a destination. In other words, if you have net income of $1 million a year, you have no more problems. That somehow there's this kind of magic nirvana that you enter into where all your problems go away. One of my coaches from the past said, when you cross $1 million or $2 million in your business, it's not like, and I don't know if you're young, you don't know what this is, possibly the Publishers Clearinghouse, which was a contest, and people would win money. And this guy named Ed McMahon, who was the sidekick of Johnny Carson, who you probably never heard of if you're not at a certain age. But anyway, Ed McMahon would show up at somebody's house, with this giant check that's like 5 feet long, and the people come to the door and they present them the check, and people see that and it's like, oh wow, they won $1 million, and then my coach would say, when that happens, it's not like a bunch of unicorns and rainbows show up and all your problems are solved. And that's the idea, that somehow success in life is a destination, and that once you arrive in it, you're in a literal kind of heaven on earth, and you never have to think about anything again. If you study business owners, what they'll say repeatedly is that if you have a $10 million business, you have to have the ability to solve $10 million problems. If you have a $300,000 law firm, then that proves that you have the ability to solve $300,000 problems. If you want to go from $300,000 to, say, $3 million, then you have to learn to solve $3 million problems. And until you go on that journey, you don't know what a $3 million problem is, because you never had to solve one. And when I was talking to Branna, and our firms mine's right at, just under 2 million. Hers is in that neighborhood, maybe a little bit lower. And I told her, I said, listen, we don't really know what the I'll say five. We don't know what a $5 million problem is. I probably know what a $3 million problem is, okay, because I'm close enough to it and in the process of solving that. But we don't know what a $5 or $10 million problem is, okay? And there's people I know that have businesses where, in the legal coaching space or something like that, or law firms, that are at 50 million annual revenues. They know what that is, and until you're in it, you don't know what it is. There's no reason that you would have ever had to figure that out. But if you take a law firm from, say, $300,000 or $400,000 to $2 or $3 million, you got to figure out how to solve those problems, and they're different problems. Some people say, a new level, new devil, and that's just an easy way to remember it. That once you get to a certain level, okay, you encounter the unknown. And that's one of the reasons that people need mentors. It's one reason people need, advisors. It's one reason people, need coaching like we do at Prosper at Law, because you can go into that arena, make the mistakes, figure it out as you go, or you can be with somebody, spend time with somebody, hire somebody as your guide to warn you, do this, do that, don't do this, think about that. And then that goes into the other thing, which is decision making. Because problem solving is decision making. Now, what's the other thing? I talk to a lot of lawyers that are, they're doing well, all right? In fact, in some of the marketing emails, and if you're on our list, we're bombarding you with emails, with phone calls, with ads. So you see that, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But there was somebody that had responded to an email that we sent out, and this email is going out to, I think 5,000 or 6,000 people. Okay. And the tagline, I think, for the email was something like, how would you like to pick the brain of a successful lawyer? Okay. And the successful lawyer being me, because if you come to the mastermind, you come to the coaching, you get to pick my brain, you get to ask me questions. And he had responded to it that I'm already a successful lawyer. Okay. So I thought, that's great. He doesn't need any help. He's already successful. Now, the way we marketed that is, how would you like to pick the brain of a successful lawyer? Probably doesn't really accurately describe what we're talking about. When I looked him up, and when I talk to people on calls, of people that are interested in joining Prosper at Law, or people reach out to me, I do a search. I look them up, and I look at their law firm, and I'm not looking under the hood. I'm looking at the surface. But when I look at their law firm, it tells me a lot, and I can learn a lot and understand where they are. I know that years ago, people told me that they could talk to somebody for 5 minutes and know exactly where they were in terms of money mindset, their financial literacy, and their success, or where they are on the success spectrum in terms of having a successful business and wealth and what they earn. And so I can do the same thing when I look at somebody's law firm. It's like, taking their temperature. I can quickly see it. So in this guy's case, in his website, it says, meet our team. Well, the legal team is him. There are no other people there. And so I instantly know what success level he's at. And I'm not knocking him. I think it's good. I think it's good that he thinks he's a successful lawyer. I think that it's good if he's out there helping people. I think it's good that if he says, I'm practicing law, I'm living my dream, I'm making money, I'm supporting my family. That's all good. But in terms of successful lawyer, there's go to court, be successful for your clients. Then there's in your law firm, be successful for yourself, be successful for your dependents, be successful for your children, be successful for your spouse, be successful for your employees. And those are two different things. And so in this case, if you're going to scale, if you're going to go bigger, you cannot do it without more people, okay? You have to have people that do the work for you, because, there are 168 hours in a week. We all have the same number of hours. So if you have 10 people working for you, then you have that many more hours that are producing for you. So you have to have the number and size of the problems you can solve, the number of people who work for you. And there's another component of that, and I did a whole podcast on A players, B players, C players, D players, and F players for different types of employees. So it's the number of people who work for you, but it's also the quality and the characteristics and the character and the motivation of those people. So number of problems you solve, number of people that work for you, and then the number of systems that you have. Because if I'm going to go open a law firm, or I wouldn't call it a law firm personally, but if I'm going to go open a law practice, I can move into town, I can network, I can meet people, I'm going to do a good job for people, I can have 2 support staff working for me, and I could get to where, okay, I'm making, maybe $500,000 a year, maybe I'm making $400,000 a year. But if I want to 10x that, I have got to bring in people, and I've got to bring in systems. Now, in terms of systems in a law firm, when I talk to people that are interested in joining Prosper at Law, the thing I hear over and over is that they're fascinated by my systems. They're fascinated by the systems I've created. And sometimes I'm not sure if they understand what the systems are. And so I'll explain some of these systems. And sometimes I think, because of the marketing we do for Prosper at Law, to grow Prosper at Law, to connect with more members and people that want to be members, or at least want to think about being members so they can grow their law firm, the systems we use, a lot of it is just software, okay? Because we have these automated things that go out, and so somebody gets an educational piece, and somebody gets something else, and then somebody else gets information about this, and all these messages. So that's just software sending out the message. If somebody sets a Zoom call with me, and then they get an email reminder that, get ready, this is what you need to do to get ready, then they get another email saying, don't forget about your meeting tomorrow. And then an hour before the meeting, they get another reminder that says, you got a meeting, make sure you're ready for the meeting. And then they get a text message that says, your meeting's starting in 5 minutes. That's just software, okay? So it is a system, but there's no software that will just take over and run your law firm. Now, you can use software, certainly, and you're using it now, and you can do things to try to enhance your clients' experiences, where you're telling them, don't forget about court, don't forget about our phone call, if you have any questions about the discovery we sent you. And those are very valuable things to do, but that alone won't do it. And systems are run by people, certainly in a law firm. Now, when I talk about a law firm, I'm talking, and everything I'm saying here has to do with a law firm. I'm not talking about other kinds of businesses, because there are other B2B businesses that have different characteristics, and somebody can be wildly successful in that. But the law firm is what I'm talking about, and different businesses function different ways. And so even if you're using AI and things like that, you still have to have systems run by people. And so what are the systems for a law firm? And in this situation, again, I'm talking about criminal defense law firms, because a personal injury law firm operates differently. okay? A family and divorce law firm operates differently. A real estate law firm operates differently. And one of the biggest differences is court, okay? If you're a criminal lawyer, if you practice criminal law for any period of time, you know that you're always in court. One of my best friends has been a personal injury lawyer for 30, 40 years, went to law school together, and they don't go to court, okay? There is no court. Court for them is maybe a scheduled deposition. That's the closest to court they get. And he's tried cases. He's tried some serious cases. I know he tried a nursing home kind of medical malpractice case. So he has the ability to do it, and he can do it if he needs to, and he actually likes doing it. But if you've got a criminal defense law firm or a criminal defense practice, you're in court all the time, okay? And so you can't miss court. Your clients can't miss court. And if you have a law firm like me where we have, besides me, we've got 3 other lawyers that are handling courts in multiple counties, in multiple jurisdictions, because we have the circuit court, which is the high-level state court. Then we have the summary courts. Then we got the municipal courts. Then we got the magistrate's court. And then we got court all over the place. And right now, as I'm doing this podcast, I haven't looked at the calendar, and I wasn't in the morning huddle, but I know my lawyers are in court. Probably at least 2 of them are either in court or going to court, and sometimes they're going to court, different courts, different times of the day. So one of our systems is every day at 8:45 a.m., Monday through Friday, we have what's called a stand-up or morning huddle. And when I first put that into place, there were different ways of doing it. One was, you could ask people, what's the best thing that happened to you last week or yesterday, or what's our core mission, or, tell a little fable or something like that. And from studying things, I tried to do that. But now what it's come down to is we have this, 60-inch television, which is in our common area, like the bullpen or whatever you want to call it. And there's the calendar, and everybody is coded on that calendar in terms of their color. And every morning at 8:45, Taylor, who works in our law firm, she goes to that calendar. And she says, this is where you're going to be, this is where you're going to be. And we do that 2 weeks out. And so many times the lawyers aren't in the room, so they call in, they're on the phone. So everybody's talking whether they're there or not. And we're looking at that calendar, and we're looking for conflicts, we're looking for schedule changes, and we do that every morning. Because for criminal lawyers, court is the most important thing. It cannot be chaotic if you're going to be successful, and your clients are going to be happy with you, and the prosecutor's going to be happy with you, and you have a reputation that you're on time, you're reliable, you don't create a problem for them. Because if you've ever been a prosecuting attorney like I was, there's some lawyers, they don't show up for court, and sometimes their client is sitting there. The client is having this dreadful fear, and you got your assistant or secretary or somebody, go call the lawyer, then you tell the hapless client, blah, 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 you stay here, we're trying to reach your lawyer, and that sort of thing. So that's a disaster. Nobody wants to have a lawyer like that. So the morning huddle is designed and effectively takes care of that. Now, the other thing, another system that we have is I get weekly numbers, okay? How many people called our law firm interested in hiring us? How many people did hire us? What are the revenues for the different areas that we do geographically? Because we're in different areas. If we open an office in another town, you want to know how is it doing, as opposed to everything is just in one big bucket, and you're doing better or worse, but you don't know where it's coming from. Another system we use is call tracking, so that different marketing pieces, we can see, who's calling on that marketing track, which gives you an idea of where to allocate money and resources. Another thing is I have a client intake team, okay? Or a sales team is really what it is. And sometimes that seems like a dirty word for lawyers, but a sales team of people who answer the phone for prospective clients, talk to them, and get their information, and then get them to a lawyer if that's necessary to talk. But in many cases, it's not, because it's not that complicated. They know who we are. They want to hire us. So then they just convert them into clients, and then our lawyers and paralegals go to their work on their file. Have an own call system where we have people assigned to answer the phone or call people back nights and weekends. For a criminal defense practice or law firm, that's huge. That changes us in the market, because the other lawyers that close early on Friday or go home at 5 o'clock and don't think about it until Monday, they miss those calls. We scoop those calls up. That's a system, and there are more systems. I have a social media manager who's putting things on social media, and she's running campaigns. She understands the TikTok algorithm. She knows what to do. She's been and she's learned a lot about ethical marketing, okay? Because we have, an outside counsel who's probably the best ethics lawyer in the state of South Carolina, and she knows how to run things by him. She knows how to make the things compliant, because a lot of lawyers who are doing social media, I see their ad and I go, that's a cute ad, but it violates the rules of professional responsibility. So we have a system to keep that from going. We have litigation meetings because we don't want, and we do it every week. It doesn't take long. It's about an hour, but we have a system because we can't go through every file. So we have a system of how to do that and what to do. We have the client care meetings. I have somebody that does the financial aspect, because I used to, write the checks and pay the bills and open the bills. And so we have systems for that. And if I didn't have those systems, I couldn't have a multi-7-figure law firm, because when I did it all myself, I could only get to like maybe $300,000. That's the best I could do. I didn't know my average case values. I didn't know my marketing strengths. I didn't have people. I did not have a team of people, of A players that share my mission. Sometimes when I look at my law firm, I'm just amazed, because they're not clock watchers. Okay, when the whistle, like on the Flintstones, if you know what that is, if you're a certain age, rings, they're not all running out the door, to get in their car and race home. And then I find them also that I saw yesterday evening when I was leaving, my social media manager and my law firm administrator are sitting there talking about an issue and how their ideas are to solve it. That's what it takes. Now, it's also, it's easier to make $2 million a year than $50,000. And that seems strange, but it's easier. Now, you still have problems, and I said at the beginning of this that it doesn't get easier, and that's probably a misstatement, because it gets a lot easier if you have the ability to make decisions. It's a lot easier making multi-7 figures than making $150,000 a year. It's a lot easier. Now, the difference is you have to be tough, you have to be fair, and you have to have enough confidence so that you can make those decisions. But ultimately, it's about your systems and your people and your ability to solve problems. That's the difference. And as you learn that, then you'll see your law firm grow. But know this is not a destination. Your problems will never disappear. You'll just get better at making decisions, solving those problems. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatelaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.